Hello everyone, how have you been? Nice to have you back. Imogen Wolf from Team Visma Lisa Bike. Day in the life of a professional cyclist. Let's see what we can learn.
I wake up at 8.
That's
I'm
nice.
going to make oats because we got 2 sessions of the bike.
Oats for brekkie.
One I-
On the scales too, weighing it out.
Explain for the people.
Explain for the people. Wow, then you can do like 2 different types of efforts, I guess. I mean, I'm not an expert. You've got to ask my trainer.
So she's doing a double ride day, 2 different sessions, and we'll chat about that a bit later on. But for now, let's see what she's going to eat.
Oh, you want cinnamon as well, I guess. I keep forgetting I've got to do it for 2 and putting everything away. Oh, they look good then, don't
Protein yogurt. No, that says 50 grams.
No, you-
Tub doesn't look that big. That's a very high protein yogurt. Strawberries, banana, oats, everything getting weighed out.
Look at them. That could have been breakfast today. That was like, yesterday. But trying to be quick and efficient. So, yeah.
Okay. This app is called the Athlete's Food Coach. This is it here. Now, they are a sponsor of Visma Lisa Bike. You'll see if you look on the kit. Actually, it's not on here, but there is a Food Coach logo on the 2025 kit. So what it does is links into your whatever training platform you have where your training scheduled in, so your Training Peaks or something like that, looks at all the training you've got on, asks a series of questions to get a baseline of your calorie burn, adds in the training you're doing, and then it spits out your macronutrient breakdown for the day based on your goals you have, if it's weight gain, if it's weight loss, weight maintenance. And yeah, tells you exactly what macronutrients you need to eat and the total calories for the day. And then you have to go in and add the foods you eat to track it, or it can give you recipes. So that's what she's using here. We'll kind of see what it looks like as she goes. But because we've paused here, we can kind of see what it's recommending for her breakfast because it's got the totals here. So double ride day, breakfast for a female athlete who's probably not that heavy. It's recommending, what's that there? 788 calories, 60 to 150 grams of carbs. I'm just going to check how much she weighs. All right, can't find her weight. Let's say, she's not that big. Let's say 63 kilos or something. So breakfast, it's saying up to 150 grams of carbs, which is a lot. So let's assume that's saying 2 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight, up to that for breakfast, 1 to 2. It looks like those guidelines are saying protein, 18 to 32 grams. So let's say half a gram of protein per kilo of body weight for breakfast and no fat to 18 grams. So high carbohydrate, moderate protein, low fat breakfast. And she is going to go out and ride.
You count all of what you eat.
Most days. Not every day, but yeah, most days.
Okay, so most days she tracks her food. So that's one of the downsides of being a pro is you got to weigh and track everything. And that's a problem with tracking. It's not that hard to track food, but to weigh every ingredient, especially if you're eating out or making your own meals with 12 different ingredients, they all got to be weighed out. If you are tracking it and you want it to be accurate, you can't just guesstimate it. So that's, I guess, the downside of being a pro is that the coaches are going to want to see everything you ate and expect it to be accurate. And also, if you're going to use an entire app like this to track exactly what you need to eat for each meal, there's no point doing it if you're not weighing it. So, bit cumbersome there. That's probably the downside of apps like these. They can be really useful for someone getting started. Let's say you've got no idea what to eat. Jesse, what do I eat? What do I even have for breakfast? Pancakes? Butter on toast? You got no idea. These apps can be good to get you started because it gets you tracking. It gives you an idea of the macronutrient breakdown as somewhere to start. I would say ideally over time you can then get an idea of the macronutrient breakdown it was recommending, the types of meals you would have on a given training day, and then you can just go and do that from there on in without having to track every meal. Maybe you do 2 weeks of tracking and having it recommend across different types of sessions and different types of days, and then you can go on from there. But as a place to start, actually, I'm not too against. There's a lot of apps. This is The one they use is Athletes Food Coach. I think there's Hexus. There's other ones that do a similar thing. Let's go back. That's the breakfast. You've got glass of orange juice, bowl of oats with a bunch of fruit, and it looked like some yogurt in there for protein. Let's go back.
I'm trying to be quick and efficient, so.
And you can see, this is what I mean by the how cumbersome it is. You've got banana, freshly squeezed orange juice, dates, honey she's even put in. So imagine all the ingredients she's having to put in here. Quite time consuming. And that's breakfast. 160 grams of carbs, high carb, 22 grams of protein, 10 grams of fat. Gels for the ride.
Ready? Wow, that was a good clap. Oh, now I've got to do my activations, which are, really goofy. But
Activating.
I did gym yesterday for the first time in like 2 weeks. So we've got DOMs, and this is...
You do activation before every rise.
I have them recovery rides. Or if I have like a long, like a really long endurance ride, normally I'll just do some like, some yoga on like nothing like squats.
Okay, so to clarify, you'll see, you've probably seen those videos of Tata Pogacar with the bands at the team bus doing activations. She said here, this isn't it. Usually she doesn't do activations. This is something before a recovery ride or specifically to get some freedom of movement if she has DOM. So she did gym yesterday. She's all tight, sore. No one, you know that feeling. You don't want to go out and have to ride straight on the bike with no stretching and releasing after having done gym the next day. So this is more for a sensation benefit than any specific adaptation she's going for. And if you're a pro, I mean, you got nothing better to do. What else you got to do today? Probably nothing. So to spend 15 minutes doing some stretching, some rolling, some light strength movements before you ride, totally fine.
Garmin. Wow.
So I don't think she talked about nutrition for the ride, but let's just quickly go back. So we've got bottle of sports mix powder up there, and then 3 Amax gels. These are 30 grams of carbs each. And let's say she's got 30 grams of mix in each bottle. So we can assume 60 grams carbs total in the bottle, 90 grams of carbs here. That's 150 grams. We'll have to wait and see how long the ride is to see how many grams of carbs that is per hour.
I start when it goes round to the right. I do my first hard warm-up effort, and then maybe I can tell you.
So 800 ml bottle and a 600 ml bottle. So maybe there might actually be a bit more mix in this one. It might be 30 grams in the small bidon, and the big bidon might have 70 grams.
U-turn. Why? It's VO2.
Okay, VO2 session. VO2 max. Intervals. Yeah, you can see the exertion here. It's going pretty hard.
It's not good today. Wow. But this next one's the last one, because I always like to say that the last one takes care of itself.
Now, I did have a look on Strava to see exactly what the session was. I couldn't find it. I don't think she uploaded it. So we don't know exactly the session details, but it looks like doing reps of a single stretch of road, turning around, going back down and repeating.
All done. Oh.
That's tough as well, given that this is interesting. So scheduling wise, she's done the first gym session she's done in ages the previous day. Dom's reported morning of the session. And then it's a double day. And the VO2 max session is first one off the block. Interesting. So I don't know if the coach set that further out and didn't realize how sore she'd be, or they're just recommending doing it like this. Probably not how I would recommend it. Firstly, doing a VO2 max session the day after a gym session, as a general rule, I'd try to avoid. If she has to do it on this day, I would definitely swap the sessions around. If she's got a double day scheduled, I would do the lower intensity ride in the morning, especially if you've done gym the previous day and you're sore. Do the VO2 max session in the afternoon. It will also be warmer, I'm guessing, in the afternoon. And so just from an RPE point of view, an enjoyment point of view, it's nicer to do a session in the afternoon without all your warmers on. So interesting choice there. to stick with the VO2 max session in the morning. Not how I would approach it. Maybe that was already in the calendar and she didn't sort of communicate with the coach, and then they might have recommended that change. We don't know, but not how I would do it.
Yeah, I didn't feel great.
Didn't feel great.
But I knew I wasn't going to feel great, but they're done.
Okay.
When I saw my program, I was like, why do I only have 4? And then after that 4th one, I was like, thank God I only had 4.
So 4 VO2 max style efforts. So what could we be looking at? It might be this could be in like a 4x5, 4x5 minute efforts. And she already knew going into it she wasn't going to feel good, and the numbers probably weren't going to be that good. And that's important to note as an experienced athlete. She should be able to look on the calendar ahead and not really get caught out by surprise on things. So she knows going into this session, numbers probably aren't going to be that good. I'm not going to feel that good, but I just want to get it done. That helps. If you go in and you're not as experienced as she would be, and you think, I'm expecting to do this numbers, I'm expecting it to feel great, and you do the first rep and you feel like garbage, that shock can totally disrupt the session. And then you're going, do I go home? Do I do this in the afternoon? What do I do? Well, she's predetermined that she's probably not going to feel good, and she's just getting through it because that's what the coach set to do. So I like that attitude.
Yeah. But now we just do like, an hour endurance, get back.
So warm up. Let's see what the session would have been. Warm up, let's say, before a VO2 max session, let's say 25-minute warm up, 4x5s with, let's say it's 5 minutes on, 4 or 5 minutes off, roughly. That's another 25 minutes. So she's probably about 50 to 60 minutes in, and she's saying she's got to do another hour. So that's about a 2-hour ride. And remember, it looked like she had about 150 grams of carbs. So it looks like fueling for this ride was about 70 grams of carbs per hour, based on what was out there before the ride and how long it is. So 70 grams of carbs an hour for a 2-hour session where she's had a high carbohydrate breakfast that's a lot of fueling. 70 grams an hour for only a 2-hour ride when you've had 150 grams of carbs for breakfast is really good.
Okay. Then we do a U-turn.
What's happened here? What was that?
Then we do a U-turn.
Road closed? Home time.
Do you do recovery after every training?
Recovery drink.
Yeah, not after like active recovery, but like everything else. Yeah.
Okay. So, recovery drink after basically every ride. Let's look up the details on that Amex recovery drink. So they've got 2. They've got a protein deluxe protein powder. I'm assuming it's not that because you obviously, as you should know, just protein after a ride isn't enough. Let's have a look at this. I think this is what she's having. Now, keep in mind, it was only a 2-hour session and it was high carbohydrate breakfast and she fueled it well. So she's probably not needing to dump in 1.5 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight after a 2-hour session that was well fueled. So carbs, you've got per serving, which will be 58 grams, 30 grams of carbs, 21 grams of protein. Something that's probably appropriate after this. This is just something down the hatch and then she'll get on to lunch. But if this was a longer ride, that a recovery shake like this is not enough. That's enough protein, but she should be having triple the carbs if this was, let's say, a 4-hour ride. So generally, if this was like a 4-hour ride, I would recommend she'd be having this plus maybe another glass of juice, something like that. Orange juice like she had for breakfast, get that up to 90 grams of carbs, 20 grams of protein. And then you can just have a shower, relax, cook your next meal, and then you're not like ravenous by the time the next meal comes around. So yeah, I think this is appropriate for the session she's done. What's the ingredient? Let's have a look. What's the carb source? So whey protein concentrate, maltodextrin, fructose. Yeah, so it's kind of like having a whey protein drink and then having another gel, basically. A nicer way of doing that, because that's all this is. It's just a gel with protein.
Most days it's like egg fried rice, but with pasta. It's basically just like scrambled egg and pasta and veggies. But
Prepping more
like it.
veggies. That's good.
Yeah, but
Okay,
that's-
one of the traps with these apps is that you're getting obsessed. Let's see if we can find a screenshot. You're getting obsessed with the macronutrients. I need this many carbs. I need this many protein. I don't want this much fat, right? And then you're losing the quality of the actual food you're eating. So what I like here is that breakfast was full of fruit. Lunch looks like it's going to be full of veggies. And so, yeah, the on-bike fueling in that session was completely devoid of nutrition, right? She had gels and sports drink. The recovery shake, also basically devoid of nutrition. It was just protein and high GI carbohydrate powders. But that's fine because those are for fueling and for direct post-ride recovery. And then she's going, I'll get my nutrition in at my next meal. And that's the trap, is that if you don't do this, you can end up eating a diet on paper that is hitting all your macronutrient targets. But where's the phytonutrients? Where's the vitamins? Where's the minerals? Where's the antioxidants? Where's all the actual nutritious stuff? And so I like that she's hitting the macronutrient target and it's also healthy food outside of training. And doesn't seem like she's too worried about getting in quote unquote healthy food during the training sessions. She's just, I'm training, I'm fueling. And then for my meals, I'm refueling on the macro targets and also eating healthy, balanced meals. So this is really good example of what you should be doing if you're using these apps.
As a side, because you have to have a certain level of like cooking, because you have to eat so much food. So.
And it is relatively easy to do if you're a pro cyclist and your day involves going for a ride and then cooking, and then going for a ride and then cooking. If you have a job to go to, you're going to have to be a little bit more creative because you don't have time to spend 25 to 30 minutes cooking every subsequent meal. It's not realistic.
Like, if you can only chef up like one dish, well, you're going to get bored.
If you really high, just get a private chef.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're not at baller status yet though, so...
If I'm Remco Evenepoel, I'm getting a private chef, I can tell you that.
And like all the knives are bad, the pans are bad.
Eggs, see,
Oh,
weighing
this
it
makes
out
it like,
again.
10 times harder. So I actually bought that from the UK.
Spinach, capsicum, zucchini, eggs, like a frittata thing.
This looks grim, but I promise it tastes better than it looks.
And what's the carb? Okay, pasta. Yep. There you go. Healthy meal.
Cooking is like functional. We've got carbs, we've got protein, some veggies, but I don't know. It's not that pretty. It'll do. Yeah, it was good. Looked better than it looked. Did the job, and now it's nap time. I'm gonna get changed, give the second ride.
Okay, so then she's had a nap. So going out for the second ride, which is interesting. So VO2 max session in the morning, have a nap in the middle of the day. By the time you get to the afternoon, a lot fresher. So let's see what the second session is. And then we can maybe chat about why you would split them and not just do them all in one ride.
Just woke up from my nap. The cameraman had a bigger nap. I slept for like half
go.
an hour, but he was out for like a full hour.
Half an hour nap.
Yeah.
Nice.
So. Clap again. Can we do a double clap?
Okay.
See why it's not fair comparing to a pro? She's woken up at 8 a.m. and then had a half an hour nap. You know, how are you meant to compete with this level of recovery if you're not a professional? Oh, that's it there. So food coach app thing is on the sleeves.
Activation again.
Oh, I know. Normally I wouldn't bother, but my legs are just like in bits from the gym. So yeah, we're gonna do it again.
Good.
But
Hopefully
not
improve
like,
the session quality.
Not as long.
Okay, actually. Yeah, this is like my favourite ride of all time.
All right,
Like,
what you
it's like my
gonna do?
favourite training session, just like fat max on the climb, so you just feel like you're actually pushing on and doing something.
For a pro rider, when they say I'm doing a fat max effort, it's basically a high zone 2, usually low zone 3 effort. Sort of like a tempo style effort.
But it's not like hard enough that you're like, you know.
Which is obviously, most people naturally kind of do a fat max effort when they're going up a climb anyway, because no one wants to noodle up a climb in their zone 2 because it's way too slow. So a kind of a nice pace to do if you're on a hilly loop. So, I mean, there's a few things here. Why you wouldn't do this in the morning? Essentially, now maybe, I don't know if this is, I think this is going to be about 2 hours. I don't know if she's going to say the duration, but again, coming back to that session timing, I would absolutely have scheduled this for the morning and done the VO2 max session in the afternoon. I'd argue that quality of the VO2 max session would have been higher in the afternoon. And there's a few reasons why you would split them up and not just do this all in one ride. Because in theory, she could have done that 2 hour VO2 max session and then gone out for another hour and a half and done this fat max hill climbing and done it. That could have been a 3.5, 4 hour day. Because this is earlier in the season, it is less stressful for your body to recover from if you have a morning and an afternoon session and you split the load. Because you do half the load in the morning, you have a nap, you do half the load in the afternoon. The next day, you are essentially more recovered than if you'd done it all in one ride. So that's one of the main reasons. Because I think this was in March, right? So you're not also concerned with the signaling differences between doing that all in one ride and splitting them, because I'm guessing she's not going to go and she probably doesn't have a high priority race for the season in March. So she might be 8 weeks out, 10 weeks out from a big race. And so missing out on the signaling of doing it all in one ride is probably not a big deal. So season planning is also important in terms of, do you split it up or do them together? Other difference also being the pathways that you're signaling when you split them up. If you had just taken this quite a fat max ride and done it directly after the VO2 max session, it's different. The body's response is different. The adaptations that are getting signaled after the ride are different. And so splitting them up, having the full recovery in the middle of the day and the nap, then you can go out and do this actually at an intensity where the lactate's going to be a bit lower, where you are actually getting higher rates of fat oxidation is the benefit of doing it separately. If she had just stuck this after the VO2 max session, the lactate response is different. The energy system contributions are different between fat, carbs, and protein. And so just the stimulus of the session is different. So that's where you're kind of taking into account, or a coach would take into account, what time of the season is this? What are the outcomes of the session I'm looking for? What are the downsides of doing them separately and not doing it together? And then the coaches obviously decided to split them up.
But I'm really hyped because everyone raves about, like, especially like the gravel trails here. So for easy days, yeah, I'm excited.
Other thing that a pro might do when they start doing double sessions is thinking outside of just the physiological box and start to go, okay, second session, do we do that on the time trial bike? Do we get some other position-based stimulus aside from just looking at what zone it's in? Does it need, maybe if it's someone that's working on some kind of specific climbing, is there a certain portion of the ride that needs to be done out of the saddle? If they're finding that their standing climbing power is lacking and they're coming up to a grand tour and they know they're going to need to be a little bit more efficient and have the aerobic efficiency out of the saddle, things like that. So even in kind of 2 or 3 steps beyond in terms of a session plan, at a world tour level, that's where things will start to come in, where it's not just, here's your session, it's what time of the day is the session, what are you eating going into it, what bike are you on, and what are the micro goals within the session. This looks like she's just sort of doing it as she pleases, but there is that other level that a pro cyclist will consider.
All right, Jack, wow.
Okay, we had a little bit of an issue, but we're good now.
That's so
and that really kind Spanish couple over there came and disinfected my hand, which is why it's yellow, and gave me plasters and bless. So sweet. But we're all good, so we're ready to crack on.
That's super annoying. Oh, total side note, I've always found when I crashed that the advice to let them dry out and scab over was not that good advice. I've got scars on my wrist, I've got scars on my knees from letting them dry out. I always found that you can get really good adhesive waterproof patches that you put on, and they're intended to be left for 3, 4, 5 days. You basically stick them on, you shower with them. After 5 days, you take them off, and the skin has healed underneath, and then you're not left with the scar. So if you do have a crash and you got some wounds, look for those adhesives that you leave on, and then you're less likely to get the scarring. Because the scarring generally comes from when it's just been left to air dry, and the skin doesn't heal properly.
How embarrassing is that? I have a week in bed with the flu, my second ride back, and I stack it.
No, well, there's some context for the video, by the way. She was sick with the flu for the week before this. So this is just essentially like a reintroduction to training.
But it's actually, I think, it's maybe a bit of Tom's fault because we were speaking about crashing, no?
No.
Yeah.
So that it's even more. I just want to reiterate the point. As we said, when she was doing the VO2 max session and she knew it wasn't going to be a good session, so she wasn't, the lower the expectation, she still got the session done. There's a lot of amateur riders that aren't as experienced as training that, I mean, they don't quite understand. They kind of forget that they were sick the previous week and that the short-term adaptations will decay over a week. And then they're expecting to come out and do the same numbers they were the week before they got sick. So that, just thinking about the session you're doing, how it's going to go given the context, and then adjusting your expectations on that is a sign that she's a very experienced trainer, rider.
We were speaking about crashing and I was like, yeah, it's not that like the juniors versus the pros.
Okay, we were talking about,
We're like about
Maybe her coach also let her know prior to that session is, look, I've scheduled this VO2 max session. I know you've been sick for a week. Don't worry too much about the power. The coach can also
I was
do that.
sketchy and I was
talking
like,
about racing.
yeah, it's not that bad. Literally 10 seconds later, we're on the floor.
No deal.
Oh, everything.
What do you love about cycling?
I would say like, this is about to sound so cringe,
Go on.
but like the process of like, just getting better when you're like, have a good few weeks of training and you can just feel yourself just like getting fitter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I find it so satisfying.
Totally agree.
What was meant to be
Totally agree. Yeah, very. She does come across, right, like as a very disciplined rider that seems to really enjoy the process. She's got the food's all dialed in, getting all the sessions done. She's realistic with where she's going to be at after being sick with the flu. I think she's interested to follow her
for dinner
results this
was
season.
I have lots of meal prep for like busy days, but I forgot to defrost it this morning.
No deal.
So instead we're doing salmon, broccoli, rice, mango, like a poke bowl situation.
I wonder if this is how she eats all the time, or is it just because it's getting filmed that she's put in a little more effort to have very healthy meals? But again, I mean, look at that meal. Salmon, so a protein source, and then vegetables, a little bit of fruit, rice for the carb source. Like, I mean, she's doing it really well.
It's fast and easy. Nah, not really. I'm gonna stretch, and then I'm really into this. There's a new season of like Below Deck, which is like a reality TV show that follows like cruise ship staff. Yeah, so probably watch an episode of that.
I wonder if, do you reckon that clock's right? Can't be right. Pro cyclists shouldn't be up doing the dishes at 4 minutes to midnight. Although it is Europe, get up at 8 o'clock. Still, that's not enough sleep. I'm hoping that clock's wrong. Let's pray. Otherwise, she should be asleep by now.
Cruise ship staff. Yeah, so probably watch an episode of that. That was my day in the life. Now I'm just gonna, this is pretty much my plan for the last hour before I go to sleep. Yeah, thanks for watching. Oh, and like and subscribe and follow. I've always wanted to do that.
And that's it. She's off to bed. So this was from the channel 834 Live. They do a lot of day in the life of professional cyclists. Check it out if you want to have a look at it. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll catch you in the next one.